Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're going to give a few minutes for people to get into the webinar tonight. So you guys are connecting up. I want to thank you so much for being here for this webinar tonight called Crypto 101. I'm very much looking forward to what we're all going to learn tonight. And of course, your participation in this. As I said, we're going to give it a couple of minutes to let people get logged in, get set in the webinar before we bring on our guests and start the education. While we're doing that, let me go ahead and do a little bit of housekeeping. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Daniel Miller. I'm president of the Texas Nationalist Movement, and we're the organization that's dedicated to the political, cultural, and economic independence of the nation of Texas, or as the mainstream media likes to call it, Texit. And so, we're the Texan people. That's us, right? So anyway, we have launched this webinar series to educate people on all the issues that are connected to Texit, either underlying Texit or touch on the issue of Texit, or frankly, any aspect of our mission. So tonight is going to be a pretty straightforward one. Last night, we did one over global exit in the Americas. You can find that on our YouTube channel. You can find links to that on our website at tnm.me. That's tnm.me. Before we get started and before I bring on the guests, I do want to remind everyone that chat is active tonight. You can find the chat by hitting the chat button at the bottom of your Zoom window. And we encourage you to go on there, introduce yourself to the other attendees, and get to know one another. Look, we're all on this journey together, and the more connections we can make, the better off we're all going to be, and the sooner we will find victory and success. Additionally, our hosts tonight, they have allotted some time near the end of the webinar, near the end of the presentation, to take your questions. So we want to make sure that you know exactly how to submit your questions so that they can see them. And I'm sure that many of you will have lots of questions throughout this, and they are very eager to answer. At the bottom of your Zoom window is a Q&A button. Hit that Q&A button, submit your question. That is the only way we will be accepting questions tonight. So if you put them in chat, they're likely to get lost or buried. So make sure you use the Q&A button. We cannot guarantee that we'll get to every question, but time permitting, we will get to as many as absolutely possible. All right. Without further ado, let's get started. What I'd like to do is begin this Crypto 101 webinar by introducing our presenters tonight. First and foremost, we have got Matt Frazier. He is the co-founder of the Texan Token and the host of Crypto Heartbeat on YouTube. And I'd like to introduce Brandon Davis, also co-founder of the Texan Token, and he is the host of Rags to Riches there on YouTube. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having us, Daniel. Exciting.
I'm super excited, and I got to tell you guys before you launch off, we have had one of the reasons that we're doing this is obviously crypto is all over the news. Blockchain, they're hearing about it, both crypto and blockchain all throughout all of the policies that are being made. Lots of discussion at the federal level, lots of discussion at the state level, and a lot of fear and trepidation that the federal government is trying to do their dead level best to regulate and crack down on crypto for folks like us while implementing their own very digital dollar, or their very own digital dollar. So lots and lots of questions. And I got to tell you, this is one that people have been very, very excited about. So gentlemen, I am going to pitch the keys to you. Educate us.
Awesome. Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it. Folks, welcome to Crypto 101. Brandon and I have prepared a presentation for you. And like Daniel said, we are going to answer questions. In many cases, a question may pop up. Brandon's going to literally say, hey, we'll stop the presentation and answer if it makes sense at that point. But what we want to provide for you is we want to provide you an introduction. And really a lot of our goal from the presentation tonight is to help you feel more comfortable. There is a ton of information across the internet on YouTube and other places that you can learn about specific things you might hear tonight. But our goal tonight is to give you an overview and also, I think, some principles that are helpful to understand because not all cryptocurrency is created equally, and help you understand our perspective, but really giving you a view into the future of what is coming and really the exciting things around cryptocurrency, and then how we are supporting the Texas nationalist movement as it relates to the referendum, and just to help raise money and support the TNM. My name is Matt Frazier, and for the last 21 years, I've worked in the nonprofit space, helping organizations raise money. And back in 2001, right when people didn't even think the internet was going to make it, and it's very similar to today, I started a company in Dallas, Texas, and grew it to be one of the largest and most successful fundraising agencies in America. We ended up buying 5 companies and doing some amazing things in pretty much all sectors of the nonprofit space. I sold my company and moved down to Temple, Texas with my bride, and it's her hometown. So we're here in actually Salado, Texas right now. And if you're lucky, you might see some deer behind me as we go through this event. But I want to share with you my experience in crypto. And then Brandon's going to do the same thing, his background and his experience in crypto, because I want you to understand this perspective. First and foremost, cryptocurrency is something that, for me, years ago, I knew about it because my brothers were involved in technology. However, I didn't get in, I didn't get in big. I just learned about it, picked up some Bitcoin, some altcoins, Ethereum, those type of things, but I really wasn't serious about it. But it wasn't until I saw a TV ad at the middle of the night. It was 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep, and I saw a strange ad that said, "Hey, do you want to be really rich?" And I'm like, "What is this thing?" And what I find is a cryptocurrency called Hex, and I got introduced to a community of people. What's amazing about that experience is I was somebody that really didn't know a whole lot about crypto at the time. And I put $600 into this thing going, you know what, if I lose my $600, fine, I'm not going to lose much sleep over it. Well, every night I'd come home from the office and I would talk to my wife and I say, "Hey, you know that crypto?" And she's like, what crypto? And so I told her about it and I said, "You know what, it's gone up to, $1,000. And she's like, "Oh, that's nice, right?" She's like, "But that's not real money." And then, every night I come home, and this was at what was called altcoin summer when things were going absolutely crazy. And I'd come home and I'd say, "It's 2,500. Oh, now it's 4,500. Now it's 7,000. Now it's 11,000." And so my $600 turned into $15,000. Meanwhile, my wife, every time she would say, "That's not real money." Well, my daughter turned 16 years old and we bought her a car. And that is when it became real to my wife. And so what's incredible about this time that we live in is that the whole financial system is shifting and changing. And cryptocurrency, with a cashless society, which we all are concerned about, there are really 2 sides of this. There's the government's desire, and then there's decentralized finance. What we're going to be talking to you today about is really the freedom and sovereignty side of cryptocurrency, not the centralized control side. Brandon, you want to give introduction and share your background as well?
There we go. It was muted. I'm actually I'm from Virginia. Born and raised here in Virginia. I grew up in the Blue Ridge Mountain area, Shenandoah. I left high school and went directly to the U.S. Navy. I worked in naval aviation in meteorology. So I got out of the Navy. I got out of the Navy to kind of go to school, and took some college courses and this and that, and got some certifications as a network engineer for Cisco, a junior network engineer. So I was pulling cable and I was working with routers and doing all that sort of stuff. And I realized real quick that I didn't want to be in a network closet for the rest of my life because I liked talking to people. So I kind of shifted gears there, and I got into kind of, I guess, sales and technology, and that's what I really enjoy. I've always been around computers and things of that nature. And if we take a look at my background back in 2014, I was hearing this guy on Facebook, watching this guy on Facebook talk about Bitcoin quite a bit. So what I did, I went to Coinbase, and Coinbase is a place where you could purchase Bitcoin. And I purchased Bitcoin back in 2014, and I forgot about it. I was one of those stories where I forgot that I had purchased Bitcoin. So fast forward a couple years, one of my coworkers at the time, he was the type of guy that he was like, yeah, let's get into Bitcoin, but he had to have somebody do it with him. So he said, come on, man, let's buy some Bitcoin. Let's get into this. Let's figure it out. So got into it. And I go to Coinbase to set up a brand new account. I had forgotten that I'd created an account prior. So I go to create the account, and it says a user with this name already exists. And I got really, really excited. I'm like, what? You got to be kidding me. No way, no way. So I finally, like, after about 5 or 6 days, I finally get back into the account. And, I had a good little amount of money there. So nothing to retire off of, but I was very happy. So I think this is important too, because you might have heard a lot of these stories. I took that money and I did all of the wrong things with that. Okay. I didn't know anything about the industry. I didn't know anything about finances, really. I wasn't really, I wasn't well versed in how to grow things in that way. And I ended up losing a large portion of that. And that's because I didn't have the knowledge to be able to succeed. And it's really it's not too many things you have to do right in order to be okay in this space. So I kind of learned my lesson, and I kind of picked back up and regrouped, and I hit the books, and I studied, and I learned, and I was able to find success after that. And if we kind of take it kind of in the past couple of years here, 3 or 4 years, I started a group to kind of teach people how to do it the right way. And that grew very quick. I started making YouTube videos. And my whole goal is to educate people on the truth of the matter, the truth of what this is all about. And kind of what Matt mentioned, you're hearing about this on Facebook, you're hearing about this on the radio, you see it on TV, you see it in the newspapers, and you're probably drawing a big question mark. Most people don't understand what this is all about. But the truth of the matter is, it's extremely important to understand, because society is shifting that way very, very quickly. So I just want to say this on behalf of Matt. I applaud everybody in here for showing up and having a desire and a want and a need to learn about what cryptocurrency is. And we're going to kind of go over this, try to break this down as simply as possible to give you guys a solid foundation to move forward with.
Awesome, Brandon. All right, let's get into the content. Let me share the screen here. Brandon, give me the heads up here if you can see what we've got.
Yep, I got you.
All right. So this is Crypto 101. Welcome. This is an educational webinar hosted by the TNM. We're so appreciative of the TNM. We're supporters, we're lifetime members, we're donors. We're doing everything we can because we believe in the future of an independent Texas. And I'm sure you also are in that position and excited about it. When I first read the book Texit, which was about 2 years ago, I read one of the chapters on fundraising, and I literally filled out a form on the website and said, hey, I'd like to help you. Daphne reached out to me, and Nate, and we connected, and then Daniel, and it's been a ride since then. But one of the things that came up is I said, you know what, the financial system's changing, and there's an opportunity for us to literally transform and unlock an abundance for people. And so in my background of fundraising, I recognize that there is an opportunity in what's called tokenizing communities. And so the Texas Nationalist Movement, about 429,000 registered people, but people literally potentially over half of the population or more are in favor of what the most recent poll, 66% of likely voters said that they would support Texas independence. The political environment has changed significantly in the last 2 years. And it seems like every day there's something that's pointing us towards an independent Texas. And I couldn't be more excited about that. My kids, I learned this when I was working with my kids on their Texas history. But I married into a family that is makes my kids, I believe, seventh generation Texan, and their great 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 grandfather fought at the Battle of San Jacinto. He was, previous to that, captured by Santa Anna's army. He escaped, was captured again, and then he drew the white bean, and he ended up being the first person to survey the city of Austin. They gave him 20,000 acres. And it was an incredible story to realize that my kids are a part of this legacy. And I take that very seriously, and I'm fully committed to doing anything in my power, and I know Brandon is as well, to help you understand not only the exciting part of Texas independence, but how that could be financially impacted by cryptocurrency. So that's the introduction. So let's talk about this. I'm Matt Frazier. You can find me on Twitter at Crypto Heartbeat, and Brandon Davis at Rags to Riches Fam. If you'd like to contact us, you can reach out and connect with us on Twitter. We're also on Telegram, and of course, you can find more information at the end of this webinar. So first thing I want to start with is this technological evolution. We know that things that are technical in nature, they evolve, right? And they improve, and the quality and the features and the benefits increase. And so this is a picture that I think everyone can understand. We know the old vinyl, right? I remember the White Album from the Beatles and my brother playing it. I remember when the first remember Glass Houses from Billy Joel. I mean, as a kid, I was listening to that stuff, and vinyl was everything. And of course, 8-track tapes came out, and then cassettes. And then, of course, I remember the first time I ever saw a CD. Previous to that, there were the big laser discs, if you remember those giant laser discs. But things have obviously moved into the digital world. And so this is a representation that these things evolve. Here's the thing I want you to understand about crypto. It is no different than the current system. It has just evolved. So the same principles that your bank uses, the same principles have just become decentralized. There's some fundamental differences, but this isn't, it's actually not a complete shift. And we're going to talk you through that to make you realize this is actually very similar to how it currently exists, but not a lot of people know actually the history and evolution of money. Brandon, do you want to share this evolution of money with folks?
Yeah. So, at the very beginning, we bartered, we bartered cows for whatever clothing or precious metals or whatever you needed at the time for crops. We moved to gold, which is, we're talking about the evolution of money here. We went to metal coins, paper money, plastic cards, electronic money, and now we're into cryptocurrency. Now, I will say that during this entire time, we're constantly looking for, I guess, better ways to be able to transact. Now, when I say better ways, what do I mean by better ways? Well, there's a lot of things that we have to look at in terms of the balance between privacy, the balance between how the government interacts with our money and interacts with central banks and things of that nature. The bottom line here is, when it comes to money, we are searching for privacy. We are searching, for the most part, autonomy, and we are looking for that next best thing to kind of connect all of those together and also serve as a hedge against things like tyranny, against things like authoritarianism, because we have seen throughout history what happens when government gets control of the coffers and the treasury. And we can look at many different instances even now. So yeah, cryptocurrency is something that it's the next evolution. And we believe that it is the strongest method to not only push back, but also retain sovereignty for people in this new age.
Absolutely. And so, this chart, like the music industry and the recordings of music, continues to move forward, and technology impacts it. You've probably heard terms like Web3. When the web came out, it was just a brochure online, right? It's contact information. Then Web 2 was where you had the ability to read and write, and that was the birth of social networks. We could interact. Web 3 is all about how the financial world is being unlocked really in a decentralized way. The creation of cryptocurrency actually happened within the government, but was made popular from a white paper by Satoshi Nakamoto. And this was the origin of Bitcoin. And what it postulated was the fact that there would be this digital cash or this digital currency. And the vision really came out of the crash of 2008. And the fact of the matter is that wanted to have something that was going to at least have a bit of I guess perspective for people, that they literally could have confidence in a system if it was decentralized. And so this comes from the open source software movement of saying, no, these things aren't going to be centrally controlled. They're going to be decentralized. And so what's amazing is that was like 13 years ago. And so to think that cryptocurrency is new, there are a lot of things out in the market to understand. But at the end of the day, it really started with this, I think, anti-government, anti-centralized, anti-controlled. And so the people that got into cryptocurrency at the very beginning, there was a lot of libertarians. It was essentially this idea of saying, hey, what if we could cut out the middleman and we could go peer-to-peer? Well, what has happened over time is that actually failed, meaning it didn't become digital cash. It actually became more of like digital gold or a store of value. And so I want to talk about, in this next slide, really the three main functions of money itself, because I think a lot of people, you think about money, and we call obviously money fiat currency, which is by decree. And fiat currency is what we consider money today. But at the end of the day, if you look at your banknote, if you look at that, it's actually a node. It's actually a debt instrument. And so in the past, prior to 1971 in Bretton Woods, where we got off the gold standard, we used things that we perceived, both parties perceived as valuable. And then we literally got into this era where we detached ourselves from things that we were substantive value or had inherent value in themselves. And we basically had an agreement. And that is really what makes the birth of cryptocurrency so incredible, because it's based on the agreement of people in community. And so the United States of America has production, it has confidence of people, the good faith and credit, all of those things that are in question today, but it is a centralized function of money. And so there's three main functions of money. Number one is it's a medium of exchange. And is anything that's used to determine value when goods and services are exchanged. Money makes exchanges very easy. So, if you think about this, we could trade, we could barter. I mean, you can go on Craigslist and find people who want to trade things. There may be, but you have to determine their value and agree on it between parties. So we could still barter today. However, a medium of exchange, in this case, fiat dollars, paper, that costs about 9 cents to create, makes it easier for us to have a proxy for our labor. And so if you think about what is the production that we have, the work that you do, it becomes representative. And we utilize this paper called currency as a means of exchange. The second piece of it is a unit of account. It means a means for comparing the values of goods and services. So we know that, all right, how much is it in dollars? And so this becomes a unit of account, and we can compare things because we have this assumption, at least for the moment, that there's some stability to this dollar in what it is. And of course, we've seen the dollar strengthen in value against other currencies. But if you look since the beginning of money, and Brandon, I'd love for you to share your story about what happened with the Federal Reserve, how much value has actually been whittled away over time as it relates to the value of the dollar.
Yeah, if we take a look at what happened with the Federal Reserve, we see that it was a store of value with gold, and through that store of value, we had notes that were issued, and essentially what happened was, back in World War II, a lot of the European countries were using gold to pay the United States for certain types of supplies and things of that nature. So the United States was able to stockpile a tremendous amount of gold at that point. We fast forward a couple decades, and what we saw was the United States decided to go off the gold standard. Now, why was that a problem, not only for the United States, but also the rest of the world? a lot of these countries who didn't have the amount of gold that they needed to create a currency that was pegged to that gold, instead they used the US dollar. All right. So when the United States came off the gold standard, they took a large chunk of the world off of the gold standard as well. Now, from the time that we came off the gold standard to right now, and this was, I think, stats according to about a month ago, the United States has inflated the money supply almost 13,600% in that time frame. So this kind of follows suit with what happens in history when you have a centralized banking authority. They go into debt, they have a deficit, and then they debase the currency to pay off the rest of the debt. So this is the 3 Ds that I like to call it there. So what has happened because of that? That means that every dollar that we've had, compared to 60, 70 years ago, 80%, 90, 85% of that value has been destroyed. We are being slowly bled. And that's because there is no cap. That's because of financial trickery from the Federal Reserve, amongst other things. So that is one of the reasons. You look at Satoshi Nakamoto, who created that paper in 2008 after that financial crisis. People are fed up with humans making decisions, a small amount of humans making the decisions for a huge market, right? And they think that they can do better than the combined millions of decisions of that market. And we find time and time again that is not the case. So the impetus for cryptocurrency is kind of coupled all up into that as well.
Absolutely. And so ultimately, the Federal Reserve, if 85% of that value has been inflated, right? They have literally, it's legalized theft. And many of you know that, and you're probably here because you want to see what is the alternative to this system that you have no control over. And someone off in Washington in the Federal Reserve has the ability to change a database record and produce $5 trillion more dollars. And what that does is it affects the confidence of the people. And so we're essentially now exporting, because people rely on dollars, they denominate debt in dollars, they pay for energy in dollars. As a world reserve currency, debatable how long that's going to last. But at the end of the day, what has happened here is that essentially we've got this legalized theft. If we can't get it through taxes, we'll get it through inflation. And so we pause there to say, this unit of account and what its perceived value is has obviously gotten weaker and weaker and weaker over time. The third part of money and what it should do is to store value. It's something that keeps its value, and that if you hold on to it rather than spend it, and you store your money in a bank, you assume that the value is going to be retained. And we see that also to be under attack when it comes to inflation. And so what we're going to talk about, this is kind of that introduction of money itself. Now we're going to go to literally, what is this? What are we talking about? What is crypto? And I want you to understand, when we talk about crypto, I want you to see your the current banking system itself. That when you look at a dollar bill, it has a serial number on it. When you look at your checkbook, it has an account number on it, and it has a routing number on it, right? That you have a wallet, let's say in your back pocket or your purse. These terms, all of the things that we're going to be talking about are actually mimicked within the crypto market. And so, don't just assume this is some techno jargon that you can't understand. If you understand how to write a check, you understand how to use your debit card, you know how to interact and pay for things, you're just going to see literally actually a much more efficient model in crypto. And so
Matt,
what is it? Go ahead, buddy.
I'm going to pause you real quick. We got some questions stacked up.
Yeah, you got it.
And we need some context before we can answer some of these questions. But Jeff's question, if crypto is so secure, how did the Canadian government stop the cryptocurrency of the trucker protesters? We'll talk about how that happened after we kind of go through this, because it's going to provide some context. Kitty Cat says, mostly concerned with the tax consequences of buying any cryptocurrency. We have to report it, and that is a problem. So with the current laws of the United States, yes, you are required to report any transactions, essentially. Anything that is, Matt, help me out here, I guess, a taxable event, and that is
Yes.
defined by the IRS.
Yeah, and
Uh,
so one of the things about crypto and taxation, we're not tax advisors, and this is not financial advice. But one thing to keep in mind is the government looks at cryptocurrency like they look at assets. And I want to make a really important delineation. I have a slide for this actually right after this, which is really the difference between currency and asset. And so we'll answer that question in detail here in a moment.
and yeah, and just to let you guys know, it was said in the chat here, very similar to property. That's how it's treated: short-term capital gains, long-term capital gains. Kenneth Godwin says, is there a way to check on the progress of it? Yes. There are actually many avenues to do that online. You can look up different charts to find out what the price is, centralized exchanges, things of that nature. I don't want to confuse you guys, but yes. And then Kenneth also asks, is TNM, is Texan Token backed by gold? So Texan Token is not backed by gold. However, Matt, I'll kind of let you talk about that real quick in terms of, just the agreement amongst parties that bring the value to the table.
And when we get into that section, we'll go into detail.
Cool.
So I appreciate that. So we'll forge ahead here, and we will answer every question. And as long as you're willing to stay, we'll stay on as well. But let's get into the meat and potatoes here. So what is crypto? So cryptocurrency is a digital or virtual currency. And I'm going to also include the term asset, because the way it's treated right now is an asset. And so it's a misnomer that when people call it currency, because it's not completely treated like a currency right now, because it's not accepted everywhere. It's not seen as a means of exchange. It's seen more of a store of value. And not all cryptocurrency is the same. But it's secured by cryptography. The term crypto means the security. And so when you think about putting your credit card online and having it encrypted, that's where the term crypto comes from. And this cryptography basically makes it secure, which makes it nearly impossible to counterfeit or to double spend. And so that's a really important understanding, that cryptocurrency is a bit of a misnomer. And so what I want to really illustrate is that because it's treated as an asset right now, and it's not something that is universally accepted. You don't go down to the store and get a Dr. Pepper and generally pay with crypto. Now, there are some things that you could buy with crypto, but it's not universally accepted yet. And as we move forward in time, we're going to see that this is where things are headed. And it's exciting in some respects because it becomes more mainstream. But I would say to you, even though we're 13 years into this from that first white paper, you're still very early in this process. And so I think the opportunity here in your learning and your knowledge is really, could be very beneficial for you if you basically take the time out to help yourself be educated. But at this time, crypto is treated as an asset for tax purposes. And so crypto as a currency is limited and seen as a store of value rather than a means of exchange. And so more and more you will see the ability to transact or exchange with crypto. But right now it's seen more of like an asset. Okay. So like gold or a commodity, or assets like a house or those type of things. And it's seen more on the regulated and taxed as an asset versus a currency. Okay. So it's really important. Go ahead.
And folks, I want to let you guys know this too. We're going to be giving you quite a bit of information. All right. And I don't want you to feel like this has gone over your head and it's like you were supposed to get it the first time. That's not the way. This is going to give you a foundation. You're going to be able to take a look at this. You're going to be able to take a look at these terms. You can do your own research on some of these definitions. You can ask myself, you can ask Matt. So just kind of listen to it with like an open mind, ask questions that pop up, but don't feel overwhelmed. It's completely normal to feel that way if you are.
Absolutely. So you've heard of blockchain technology. I'm going to make this extremely simple. Blockchain is a system of recording information in a way that makes it difficult or impossible to change, hack, or cheat the system. So here's the simplest way I like to explain this. You may know what a ledger is, right? Think about a notebook, a ledger, or let's say a spreadsheet. There is one spreadsheet per blockchain. And that spreadsheet you cannot change. You can only read or write to it. You can only add to it or look at what it says. And what's amazing about blockchain is the fact that no one owns it. It's decentralized across computers across the world, and they have to agree and have to have the exact same spreadsheet. They have to agree that the database is correct. And that means all of the blocks. And so if they agree on it, they write to it. And so what's amazing about decentralization and this idea of consensus is that no single party, no individual, no centralized organization is in the middle. And that is where the freedom and sovereignty comes with true decentralized finance, is the fact that it's you and the contract, or you and a peer, meaning you can literally send resources or money or any value that you have in crypto to an individual with no middlemen. There's absolutely no one in the middle. And so it creates a censorship resistance. What's amazing about that is you don't have to get permission from anyone to have a crypto wallet. And you don't have to have permission for anyone to accept crypto or to send crypto. Now, if you want to convert your US dollars and buy crypto in the United States, there is a KYC process, which is a know your customer. And that process has to be done so because there is tracking. However, the blockchain in and of itself is meant to be censorship resistant, and it's done through decentralized nodes that is not controlled by any government or any centralized organization. And that is actually why it's so exciting as it relates to Texas independence and the future of money. Because right now, governments across the world are late to the party. It's been 13 years, and now they're just realizing, hold on a second, we want our own digital money. The problem is, it's what's called central bank digital currencies. And these central banks want to have their own digital dollar. And it's the reason it's so scary is because they can track everything. You might have seen, in the last 6 months, them talk about, we want to be able to see into your bank every $600 transaction. Any transaction over $600, we want to be able to track. Well, the utopians out there want to have cryptocurrency in central bank digital currencies. One, because they want to redistribute wealth based on your status. This leads to tracking everything with no privacy. And so what's amazing about DeFi is that there's going to be a point in the future where the government says, what do you mean you're not using our money? And so the amazing thing about the blockchain is Pandora's box is already open and the cat's out of the bag. Being a part of decentralized finance, it's already out there. And when you participate in it, you can be assured that it is not, it is censorship resistant. So our friend in the chat asked, well, what about those people in Canada? And here's the answer to that. Centralized exchanges are what they are, centralized exchanges. And so what ends up happening is someone thinks they're in crypto when they're on a centralized exchange. And the problem is you're not actually in crypto. You do not own. The custody of your coins is held by a third party. And so what you're going to hear from Brandon and I today is what's called non-custodial, meaning that you hold the keys to your tokens. And we often say this in our community, not your keys, not your coins. And so when things are on centralized exchanges, the government can come in and shut those down, but they literally cannot affect something that's in a non-custodial wallet. And that's what we're going to be talking about. True DeFi that is separated from middlemen. That's the beauty and the promise of real cryptocurrency. Not all of it's the same because it was built to be censorship resistant and to remove middlemen. That's what creates freedom and sovereignty, not giving your coins and your tokens to centralized parties.
Nice. And another thing with this, we're going to go a little bit advanced, not much. Matt's talking about blockchain and how blockchain functions. And you might hear some words called consensus, for example. When a transaction processes on a network of a cryptocurrency, we can say Ethereum, we can say Bitcoin, we could say Hex, whatever the case may be. What happens is you have that transaction that is broadcast out to thousands and thousands of other, we'll just call them computers, that are helping keep the network secure by transacting. So each one of these computers has a full history of every single thing that has happened on that network. So when that transaction goes out, all these other computers have to have consensus that that transaction is legit. It has to match their database. So that's how it makes it extremely, extremely difficult to change a transaction on the blockchain. In this instance, there's different ways to validate it, but it's because you would have to hack thousands of computers simultaneously at once. And there's really not enough power in the world at this point to hack these bigger networks because it's almost impossible. So that's a little bit advanced there, but I just wanted to let you go. That's how they do it. It broadcasts, and then all these other computers have to look at their database and say, yep, everything checks out. They give the okay, the transaction goes through. So, and it makes it very difficult to hack or tamper with.
Right. And in the current financial system, the settlement of accounts is obviously happening by a third party, right? You know about MasterCard and Visa, which are gateways. You know about your bank that settles accounts. You know about the SWIFT network likely that does wire transfers. But at the end of the day, what's so neat about this is this cryptocurrency cuts out all of those middlemen so it can be between you and me. It is peer-to-peer. So cryptocurrencies are decentralized with transactions completed peer-to-peer, and do not go through any middleman or centralized organization. Every node, which is what Brandon referred to as the computers, there's a computer node, has a copy of the blockchain. Hence, the network has no single central point of failure and is immune to manipulation or government interference. What's great about this and why it's such a big deal is because it's not controlled by anyone, any centralized party. And so it gives an increase in freedom and sovereignty, in my opinion, and gives you the ability to make your money portable. And so that's really one of the most exciting parts of this. But at the end of the day, I think the big terms that you need to keep in mind are censorship resistant, decentralized, and essentially the network itself is controlled not by a centralized party. So
Exactly.
This is the nuts and bolts of it. And I'm not going to spend much time on this because this gets pretty detailed. But for those of you who are kind of into, show me how it works, kind of the 1 through 6. So a user requests a transaction and a block representing the transaction is created. The block is broadcasted, like Brandon said, to all the nodes on the network and says, hey, we got a new block. Number 4, all the nodes validate the block in the transaction. They all say, yep, this is what Brandon wants to do. Okay. And then once they have agreement that all of their ledgers are the same, right? The block before them, which is the transaction before them, and all past transactions are the same, that there's no one has changed anything, it validates that and adds that transaction. So essentially, if you get your receipt, you go to Lowe's or Home Depot and you buy stuff and you see this big long receipt, this is just a receipt that never ends. And it never can be tampered with, and it's always the same, and the next transaction gets put on it. So what's great about the blockchain is you can go back into history, and people are talking about utilizing the blockchain for voting, where everything is in the light and everything is transparent. And what's the whole point of all of this stuff? It helps you have confidence that there's not somebody in a back room somewhere printing money indiscriminately, because that's essentially what the Federal Reserve done. It's a legalized ability to counterfeit and to steal. And what's so exciting about the blockchain is that no one can change it. And you can have confidence that that contract, that smart contract that you interact with, is going to do what it says it's going to do. Ultimately, when all of this ends, the transaction gets verified and executed, and it is written in stone, if you will. And the beauty of that is that everyone can see it and verify it and validate it. The beauty right now, though, is it can be anonymous. You don't tie your name to your wallet address. And so this gives some really exciting potential for our future when it comes to freedom and sovereignty. And that's why I believe that understanding crypto and being interested in independence of Texas is so important, because they work so closely together.
Absolutely. Now, Matt, are we gonna? Yeah, we're gonna get into this. This is important.
Yeah, cool. This is the money slide right here. This is, folks, if there's something that you take a screenshot of, This is where all the meat and potatoes is. And so this is a comparison. You want to walk through these, kind of the comparison left and right?
Yeah, if we kind of take, let's just say, let's take a look at the dollars or fiat money compared to cryptocurrency. On the left-hand side of your fiat money, physical medium of exchange, right? So we have a physical medium of exchange, we have cash. Cryptocurrency, we have a digital medium of exchange. Fiat money on the left, represented by bills and coins. Cryptocurrency is represented by one private and one public piece of code, essentially. You have unlimited supply on the fiat side. Government can produce as needed. Cryptocurrency, in most cases, there is a limited supply. Most cryptocurrencies have it set to a maximum. If there is an inflation mechanism built in, you know exactly what that number is going to be, and it's predictable every single time. But that is not the case with our Federal Reserve, as we have seen over the decades. Fiat money is issued by the government. Cryptocurrency is produced by computers, and it's used peer-to-peer, not issued by the government. Fiat money is centralized, issued, and controlled by law and banks. Cryptocurrency is decentralized, not controlled by government or other entities. If you have the right cryptocurrency, that is. And I also want to say it's controlled by math and logic, much different. Value determined by the market and regulation. With fiat money, we have massive amounts of tampering. We have massive amounts of manipulation when it comes to the markets and regulations, insider trading, things of that nature. Cryptocurrency, the value is determined primarily by supply and demand. So those are the key points, the key takeaways, key differences between the two.
Absolutely. So thank you, Brandon, for that. I appreciate you sharing that. This is a really important slide for you to understand. And we're now going to take this into a specific example, because what we're trying to do here is trying to give you a good foundation. And then we want to give you an example of this as it relates to kind of everyday life. Okay. And so this is a very simple example. There's two different people, and we just talked about fiat versus cryptocurrency. We're going to illustrate this in a simple kind of narrative story. There's a person A and a person B. The person A on the left is doing things in a traditional system, which is the fiat world. And the person A wants to send money to someone, and person B wants to send money to someone. In this current state, we know that we go to the bank, right? So we physically, let's say, go to the bank. And let's not do it online right now. Let's actually do it, go to the bank. Well, I have money that's in my wallet. And let's say I want to take that cash and I walk up to the teller and I say, all right, I want to send this money. Maybe I want to wire some money. Well, I've got to know where it's going to go. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. And Brandon's going to share what person B does in the crypto world all the way through the account number.
Yeah. So person B wants to send some money. All they need is an internet connection. You compare that to person A, where they have to physically go to the bank. They can't physically go to the bank to do this. Person B, internet connection. Person B has a bunch of money in their wallet. They want to transfer it. The only thing that they need is the wallet address of the recipient that they want to send that value to. Now, if you compare it on the left-hand side here, you need a teller at a bank for person A, whereas person B, you do not. You just need a wallet address. This is peer-to-peer. I'll let you take it from there, Matt.
Yeah, it's awesome. But here's the thing I think is important about this section of this is that I think a lot of people think that they don't understand the differences in wallets, right? So let's say you have a leather wallet in your back pocket or in your purse. The same thing is true, and these are crypto wallets. And what a wallet does is it literally enables you to interact. You have keys to your wallet that represents your access. And what we talk about in DeFi, which is decentralized finance, is the fact that your wallet, you need to have a non-custodial wallet. You need to have a wallet that's not on a centralized exchange. Your coins are not locked up with a third party. They're actually in your control. And so when we talk about wallets, there are a lot of different kinds of wallets out there, and we're not going to go into the details of those. But the most important thing, and we've used the reference to Metamask. Metamask is a wallet application that's a plugin for Google Chrome that you can use as your crypto wallet. There are so many different ways to treat it when it comes to security and such. But at the end of the day, which is important to know, you have the keys and only you have the keys. And if you lose the keys, you lose your crypto. What happens in this world of decentralization is it puts you completely and firmly in control of your money. The problem is if you forget it, and we've seen story upon story about people losing their keys to their wallet and losing all of their crypto, what you have to exchange for this kind of freedom and sovereignty and control is you make a mistake, it can be problematic for you. And so there are all sorts of ways, and it's for another webinar at another time to talk about security and wallets. But a wallet is a very simple thing to get, but we recommend that it's non-custodial, meaning you do not keep your coins housed on a centralized exchange, because that means a third party technically owns them, and you would have to peg them.
Yeah, let's take a look at what happened with Coinbase, which is a centralized exchange. If you look in the fine print at Coinbase, if you're holding your cryptocurrency on one of these centralized exchanges, if that centralized exchange, if that publicly traded company goes bankrupt, they have the ability to take your assets to pay off creditors. And most people, I would say 99% of people, don't know that because they don't read the fine print. But that's an example of why it's extremely important to learn enough to get your own digital wallet, right? To get away from that custodial relationship with centralized exchanges.
That's great. So one of the questions that came up in the chat, and before we continue in this example, Jeff asks, if my computer node falls in the lake, does my crypto disappear? So don't misunderstand this. Your crypto wallet is not a node. There are people who have computers that know a lot about, the nerdy people that know about servers and those type of things. They become validators and they become people who secure the network, and there's incentive for them to do that. You as a wallet holder and a crypto holder are not a node. You are just a crypto holder and you have a wallet. Your computer itself, as long as you have the keys, right? And that's a whole other rabbit hole, but as long as you have the keys, you could go to any computer, you could download MetaMask and log in with your seed phrases, and anywhere in the world with an internet connection and a MetaMask software, you can get access to your resources through those private keys. And that's one of the great things about this, is that technically it's not like it's stored on your hard drive, and if your hard drive goes out, you've lost all your crypto. That's the old way. With custodial wallets, it has the ability for you to, as long as you have your seed phrases, you have access, because technically the tokens are actually a part of the ledger, and it knows what accounts have what value. And so essentially you have the key to the door, but that key is universal. And that's what's so exciting about Web3, is that you could literally go to any computer on the planet, download the MetaMask wallet, put in your seed phrases, and have access to transact with your cryptocurrency. It's very, very important for you to know.
And just remember that example that we used earlier, where we have, let's say, thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of computers that are helping process these transactions. You got to understand that each one of those computers has a copy, right, of what's going on. So you could throw away, 900,000 of those, 1 million computers, and you would still have a computer to be able to pull a copy back down and to be able to recover your stuff. So that's the decentralized, secure way of doing things there.
But you don't have to run a node to be in crypto.
You do not.
No,
you
that's
do not.
That's for the really advanced nerds, if you will. So we were in number 5 here. We're talking about account numbers. Well, if you know the account number to wire to, it's the same idea, is that you have a wallet address that's what's called a public address. And that public address is like your account number and routing number on your check. Very, very similar. It mimics the same thing. So in the banking world, in legacy finance, your account number and your routing number is essentially what a wallet address is. It doesn't have your name tied to it. That's the other thing, is that, you know, we talked about a KYC process. There are ways to be anonymous and have access to crypto without anyone knowing who you are. And so that anonymity is another benefit of cryptocurrency at its very core. When we look at the next section here, I'll go through the left-hand side to the bottom, and then you can do the right there, Brandon. So in the banking world, the teller has to take that money, right? They take that cash from you, they deposit it into they have a transaction record, and then there's a processing in order to do that wire. So there's SWIFT codes, there's all of these things that they'd have to do to transfer that. And you have to have that intermediary, which is the bank. And then you have to have the transaction processing system called SWIFT in order to transfer that money. And there's fees in that whole process, all of those middlemen. And so a wire fee at your bank might be around $15. And then it takes 3 to 5 days generally, a lot of times, for that to be secured. Sometimes it's, you know, it's gotten a lot quicker over the years, but there's a time delay. And then there's a point in which that transaction is cleared and the cash is sent. The crypto side of things is way more efficient, low cost, and removes the middleman.
Yep. So you have the wallet address of the recipient that you want to send money to. You can send those assets, and for a fee of about $1.50, you can send them within 3 to 5 minutes anywhere in the world. There are no middlemen that take continuous cuts of your money and really rack up the fees. And it's nice not to have to wait 3 to 5 days. Now, what happens on the traditional banking side when that transaction might be rejected? You've already waited 3 or 5 days. Maybe you have to wait another week or 10 days to get your money back in the first place. So the transaction clears on the crypto side, and you have cash in your wallet. And it's a much simpler, cheaper, more secure, and private way to transact.
Yeah. And so we use this as general statements, 3 to 5 days on the banking side, 3 to 5 minutes. At the end of the day, many transactions happen much quicker. The blocks within blockchains themselves can be seconds.
30
but
seconds.
At the end of the day, it's much faster to do these transactions, and they are direct and peer-to-peer. So we wanted to give you that example of two people that want to do the same thing. And what cryptocurrency essentially does is cuts out the middleman. It's more efficient and it's less expensive. But one of the things you have to keep in mind is you are completely in control and you are completely responsible. So one of the big questions that people often ask us is, well, how do I get into crypto and how do I get out of crypto? Probably the number one thing that people ask us when we're doing education is they're like, well, show me the money, right? Show me, how do I do this? And so this is a very simplified version of how you get into crypto and how you get out of crypto, because currently most cryptocurrencies that you're in, you don't use as a means of exchange. It's more of an asset, right? In the future, you might find yourself literally going with your mobile device to a convenience store and buying a Dr. Pepper with crypto. But right now, that's not the case. And so how you get into, I'll share with you how you get in, and Brandon will share how you get out of crypto. How you get into crypto is you have to go through a KYC process. Well, you have to have money in the bank, first off. But in order to buy a token on an exchange, only the places in the United States that you can buy crypto require what's called a KYC process. It's know your customer, and they need to verify that you're not a terrorist organization, right? And so it's really laborious. You have to show a picture of your ID. They go through a process by which you essentially get approved so you can connect your bank to an exchange. Now, I said to you before, you don't want to hold your coins in a centralized exchange, but most of the time, not all, the fiat on-ramp, which is the way in which you get cash into crypto to buy, requires this waiting period and this process in order to have your value purchasing something like Ethereum or Bitcoin or something like that on an exchange. Our recommendation, though, of how you get into crypto is that when I get into crypto or I add my money to Coinbase, and I immediately, as soon as it goes through and it is in my account, let's say I buy Ethereum. I then take that Ethereum immediately and I send that to my non-custodial Metamask account. And that is the best practice right now for making sure that you hold your tokens, because you have the keys to your MetaMask. It's not in a third party's possession. And so there's a lot of people that think that crypto is just centralized exchanges like crypto.com or Coinbase. But what we're saying to you, important to note, if you care about your own resources and money in crypto, having that under your control in a non-custodial wallet like MetaMask is absolutely critical. Then once you're in, you have the tokens in MetaMask, you can go to exchanges. There are things called decentralized exchanges that are automated. There's no middleman, and you literally can swap for the token of your choice. And then many cryptocurrencies like the Texan token allow you to stake those to receive more token or just hold them. And so that's how you get into crypto. But more people, I think, are interested in like my $600 turned into 15,000. Now I want it to get it back into the bank so I can buy my daughter a car. Brandon?
Yeah. So if you want to get back to the bank, you have that cryptocurrency that is in your wallet. What you're going to do is you're going to take the crypto of your choice. Let's just say Texan token, for example, and you would swap it back to an asset that is used on the exchange that you want to send it to. So let's just say that we take our Texan token and we swap it back to Pulse Chain, or we swap it back to Ethereum. From there, the exchange will allow you to change it to US dollars and send it to your bank. It's really quite simple. So you're just going to kind of reverse the process. The big takeaway here is the bank, your traditional bank, is the on-ramp and off-ramp for these transactions currently.
Good deal. All right. So we're going to pause here and answer some questions, and then we're going to share with you about the Texan token and how we've come alongside the TNM to help them with their fundraising, and share with you how we are basically providing you with a premium for your giving. So if you do give to the TNM, we're going to give you something for free that has no value, and those are Texan tokens, and we're going to go through that. But right now we're going to go into the questions and answers. If you've got questions about what we've talked about in the introduction to Crypto 101, we'd love to answer those questions. And then we want to share with you the Catalyst campaign and the Texan token. And we have one really big announcement that we're going to make that we haven't shared publicly with any group on this stream. So if you are interested in the Texan token and what's happening with the TNM, you're going to want to stick around to hear that announcement. Are there any questions that you want to field right now, Brandon?
Yeah, let's just get into these. So Keith Erickson says 2 questions. One, why peg the value of Bitcoin to the dollar if the dollar is a fiat currency? It's actually easier to understand the value of Bitcoin because it's not denominated in US dollars. It's denominated in what's called Satoshis. So we're not actually pegging the value of Bitcoin to the US dollar. We're just using the US dollar to better help you understand how much it's worth. Okay, so it's not an actual peg. Second question is, what makes cryptocurrency mining a controversial issue in Paraguay? I would say that there's individual, regional, or nation state reasons for allowing cryptocurrency or not allowing cryptocurrency. I think if I remember correctly, they tried to pass a bill outlawing mining, but that actually was vetoed by the president. So that's the answer there.
Let me take this
yeah.
next one here, which
Yeah.
is Chris Powell.
Yeah.
What is the launch date? What do you expect it to open at? How has the response been around the world during the pre-launch? Okay, so great question. So Brandon and I and about 30 of our closest friends from across the world are founding the Texan token. We've created the contract. We have secured the resources. We have audited the contract. We've put it up in the test net. And we've done all the work in order to get it to where we are, where we've shared it with folks. We, as donors to the TNM, wanted to say, hey, we want to encourage people to give to you. And rather than, you cannot do an initial coin offering, you cannot sell token. And so anything that you would receive Texan token wise is going to be a no value airdrop to your wallet, and it will have zero value. Your basis in it will be zero because it will not be on the market. So when it comes to the launch date, we are launching on the Pulse chain, and our anticipation is that the Pulse chain, which is a new Ethereum fork, so it's just like Ethereum, but it's a copy of Ethereum called Pulse Chain. And when it launches, that's, within probably 7 days, we're going to launch the Texan Token. Prior to that launch, we're going to airdrop Texan tokens into your account before there is a liquid market. There is no expectations of any opening price. We do not speculate on price. We want you to see you are getting something for free that has no value. We are not giving financial advice nor representing this to have any value. And so the point of this is to be very clear. This is a no value premium, just like you'd get a loyalty point from the TNM. And so will there be a future value? That's what the market will decide. We do not have influence over that. If there are people out there that are interested in buying, the price goes up. If people are interested in selling, the price goes down. And so the response that we've had is Brandon and I both have significant, at least in the crypto world, significant size of YouTube channels. And we've been in this Pulse Chain ecosystem, which we believe is the ecosystem of freedom and sovereignty. And what we're excited about with this is the fact that this community of people across the world understands and values what Texas is doing and the TNM is doing with Texas independence. And so the response has been incredible. But I will say this, the number one thing that's driven this is all of the unrest in the world, is that people see people locked down, people see people having their accounts frozen, people are seeing all of these things in the legacy system crumbling, they're seeing censorship, and they're saying, we have to find a way to push back on authoritarianism. People understand the nature of Brexit. Texit makes complete sense to them. But it is a polarizing idea. There are people that are either for it or against it. But we have been really surprised, honestly, how incorporating the first endowment contract on the blockchain with a political utility like the independence of Texas has gotten so many people from across the world excited. At the end of the day, we're going to be giving away free Texan token to everyone in our community. There's about 140,000 wallet holders that have sacrificed for Pulse X, and hold hex stakes. And so we're bringing not only resources to the TNM when it comes to people that have never known about the TNM until we told them about it, but we're also having holders from across the world. They're going to be holding Texan tokens, and we're appealing to them that you want to benefit from the endowment functionality of the contract, which encourages you to hold them. So we are not speculating on price. The only thing that you need to know from us is that there is a zero value donation premium that you would receive if you want it by donating to the TNM. And that's something that we as a third party are doing to support Texas independence.
Yep. And I'm not a tax professional, and you definitely need to talk to a tax professional, but there is significance to the fact that this will be no value when it does hit your wallet for tax purposes, potentially. Again, consult with your tax professional there about that. James Modaset says, why not backed by gold? The problem about having a currency backed by gold is you have to have the gold. And if you're going to create that currency, you would have to purchase quite a bit of gold, which most regular human beings on Earth don't have billions of dollars to do so. So I think that would be the reason. However, if you take a look at how these cryptocurrencies are created, they are deflationary in nature, which creates a scarcity model, which also creates value in and of itself.
Yep.
Sanitier, I have $100,000. The account belonged to my husband who died. Really sorry to hear that. In a different crypto account. They are being sued by the government and are not releasing any money. Do I have options regarding having it transferred to my Texan Token wallet? So that's going to have to be something I would imagine, Matt, that it has something to do with the fallout that we've seen with some of these centralized exchanges potentially. Yep. But I can't really answer that for you. It would have to be released by that entity. And you know, there's probably class action lawsuits and all sorts of things going on. So I really can't advise you in that way. But once it was released, depending on the type of crypto, you could take custody of that if that was within your legal right to do so.
Yeah, and Santa, I think one, our heart goes out to you of losing your
Yeah.
husband, number one. But number two, this is also a big lesson to everyone. It really illustrates what we've talked to you about with Crypto 101. And that is, if you do not hold the keys, it is not your coins, meaning you're not in custody. When there are third parties like Celsius, if you've heard about Celsius, literally Celsius went bankrupt. And when you read the fine print, you realize that you gave over your right to those tokens for yield. And one of the things the founder in in the Pulse Chain community says is, don't pick up pennies in front of freight trains. And what that means is that people across the crypto world want you to give your tokens to them to get some kind of yield. But the problem is you have to give them your tokens to do it. And what ends up happening is stuff like this, where the government's suing this organization or this group, and there's a class action suit. And so your resources are locked up. But like Brandon said, if they do get released, you would be able to transfer them to what I would call your MetaMask wallet, where perhaps your Texan token may sit after the airdrop. But yes, this is a really good lesson, and very sorry to hear about your husband.
John Myers says in the last couple months, 2 crypto companies have gone bankrupt. Why won't this do the same thing? It's because this is actually not a centralized entity. Okay, this is not a publicly traded company. This is not an LLC. You control your own tokens, and the way that this cryptocurrency works, Texan, you will continue to have custody of your tokens at all times. So you will not be able to lose those. So for that reason, that is your answer there.
So John, and this is really, I think, to even clarify it even further, there is no company that owns the Texan token. It's a contract that's put on the blockchain that's immutable. And what that means is as soon as it's launched, no one of us has control over it. Zero. We have no admin keys. We can't change it. It is what it is. And so that's why the crypto world is so exciting when it comes to immutable contracts in smart contracts. They're not owned by anyone. They're not controlled by anyone. So as soon as the Texan token is launched, right? Could there be bugs? Could there be issues? Absolutely. Those are the things why we go through security audits. But the primary DeFi concept is immutability, no admin keys, no ability to change the contract. It does what it does. And that gives people confidence that they can utilize that contract to receive the benefit that is programmed into that contract. And so that's a really good point. There is no company here. This is literally a group of people who said, we're going to work together to win together by creating something that we essentially give to this community. We want to give to the TNM community. We want to give to freedom loving people across the world the ability to interact with this contract. But it's only you in the contract, and you have a choice. You don't have to do anything with it. You don't even have to receive the free premium airdrop. But if you do, you have to realize it's just you in the contract, and we do not have control after it's launched. There's no like going in and changing things. And that is actually for the very fundamental principle of immutability on the blockchain. That's why it promotes freedom and sovereignty, is because there isn't a centralized party that can change it. So thanks for that question.
Absolutely. Kenneth Godwin says, will we get tax forms for IRS reporting? If you use centralized exchanges, they do divvy those out. However, if you're using the decentralized nature, it's essentially the honor system, and it's up to you to report any taxable events, such as selling, for example. So that will be up to you. Yeah.
And there's a lot of debate too. You need to talk to your tax advisor and somebody that has experience with crypto. But there are many different opinions that I've heard, whether you're paying on swaps. There's been some things from the IRS as it relates to not paying on staking interest or yield, but that's something you need to talk to your tax advisor about. But the way that things are currently treated are as assets, so short-term and long-term capital gains versus, so it is ultimately income. But if you hold your tokens, right, and you have a basis in them like any other asset, and when you sell them and receive that fiat, you're going to have a gain. And so that's the general gist, but we don't provide tax advice. And so you need to talk to your tax advisor there. But Brandon is absolutely right. That's what's so interesting about this Wild West of crypto right now, is that it is the government is scrambling to do regulations.
Absolutely. And they're probably scrambling to do regulations because they're always looking for additional income, aka tax.
Yeah.
So, and that's unsatisfactory. Edwin Swanee, where do we get the wallet? That's a good question here. I'm going to go ahead and post this. Let me see if I can type the answer. I'll send that to you. You can go to texan.cc/videos, and texans.cc/videos has a video at the very bottom that shows you how to download MetaMask. And it's me, a video that I'm doing. I'm going to teach you the very fundamental, the very basics to make sure you're secure to get that wallet going. How is our current Texan token asset building with TNM going to be calculated and distributed, and when? Matt, I'll kind of let you take that.
Okay. So actually, I'm going to jump into this portion of the presentation because it's going to answer this question.
Perfect.
And so let's jump into this, and Lee will answer that question here. So the Texan token, and I mentioned to you before when I read the book Texan or Texit by Daniel Miller, I saw this challenge in fundraising. And so the idea here, and this is where crypto is going in the future, is the hardest thing to do is to get people to care about your token. And community is the key. It's where value comes from, because it's agreement in community that creates value, because this is an agreement, right? We consider this to have value. The market establishes value because it gets paired with other things in crypto that already have established value. And so that's what's called an automated market maker. That's what's called a decentralized exchange. And so these things happen, but once the Texan token goes live, the market will determine its price. We wanted to find a way in which we can encourage people to give to the Texas nationalist movement. We believe in Texas independence, and we believe it's going to happen, and a referendum is going to be on the ballot in November of 2023. And we wanted to find a way that we can unlock value for people across Texas, freedom-loving people across the world, and create something that could be essentially free people from debt slavery, could decentralize an abundance of resources. And that's our hope. That only happens through community. And because there are 429,000 kind of people in this community, and it will only grow as more and more news comes out about the referendum. But then there's people in the crypto world where we come from, 140,000 people in our community that are interested in these new projects on this new blockchain called Pulse Chain. And so what we decided to do is we said, we're not accepting any money. We want all the money to go to a registered nonprofit organization called the Texas Nationalist Movement, and they created what's called the Catalyst Campaign. In the Catalyst Campaign, there are all kinds of premiums for your giving, whether it be custom boots or the Alamo Saber or leather goods or portfolios or wallets or bags. They have all kinds of things. There's t-shirts, there's hats, there's all kinds of swag, but there's also going to be Texan token of no value given to you if you give to the TNM. And so what do you have to give? Well, when you give $1, whether it's through crypto or through fiat currency, so through a credit card transaction, the TNM is going to give you loyalty points. Those loyalty points are going to be 10,000 loyalty points for every dollar that you give to them. They're going to then hand us a spreadsheet, and it's going to only have 2 bits of information. We will have none of your data. We won't know your name. We won't know anything. They're going to give us your wallet address and the amount of loyalty points that they have awarded you. If you have given in the past to the Texas Nationalist Movement, you're going to get credit for those past gifts. You're going to also get credit for any future gifts here that you're giving during this period of time. There are 18 days left in this token distribution and this challenge that we have for people that are supporting the campaign. But in addition to these premiums you see on the on the screen, but you also see on the website, you will also get the same credit, $1 to 10,000 loyalty points, which will be 10,000 Texan tokens per dollar, airdrop to you at no value and free. Okay, so there's no, the money goes directly to the TNM, and we're a third party that gives you the free airdrop of the Texan token. So what is it? Do you want to say something there, Brendan?
No, I think we're good. I'll let you move forward, and then we'll knock the rest of these questions out.
Okay, great. So this is the high level of the Texan token, and we're going to get to some of these questions and we'll wrap things up. So the Texan token is the world's first crypto endowment token that you can use as an individual or an organization. And what is an endowment? I've worked in nonprofit organizations that have utilized endowments to secure their future and create cash flow. And what an endowment is when people give money to an organization, they put it into an account and they invest it wisely. It creates investment income, which then can be used as cash flow for operations. That same concept, we've mimicked the functionality of an endowment token. So when you, let's say you have Texan tokens, and you say, all right, I want more Texan tokens. What can I do? Well, I can basically put those into the contract through a mechanism called staking. And you can stake your Texan tokens by locking them up in the endowment contract. This is essentially like taking your principal and locking it up for a period of time. Each day, there is an accumulating interest or yield that those Texan tokens accrue. So your interest or yield, which is programmed into the contract, we don't do any, there's no middlemen. It's already programmed into the contract. The base rate is 5%. And so you would get 5% more Texan tokens per year, and it would increase over time. And I'm going to share with you the table of what that looks like. The maximum annual average, if you held it for 22 years, is 87% per year, with the last final year being the total being 1,881%. That's with no price appreciation. And so what we've done is we've programmed this digital money to have yield and interest. And it's one of the most important incentives, because what makes a cryptocurrency more stable is people buying and holding it. And you provide incentive within your contract for people to hold it. And that is by giving them more Texan tokens, right? Interest and yield is paid in Texan tokens through your sole interaction with the Texan smart contract. It's you and the contract. It's not you and Brandon. It's not you and me. It's the contract that is immutable on the blockchain. If you want to, you can hold your Texan tokens liquid in your wallet and never stake them. It is not a requirement. You could just say, I'll be fine with it and let it ride. That's fine. But you know that within the contract, there's incentive for you to buy and hold. That is a very important, what's called a tokenomic. That is one of the ways in which you incentivize and encourage the price appreciation. But Texan is true DeFi. What that means is it's true decentralized finance. The contract is immutable. There are no admin keys. It's just you and the contract. Once it's launched, there's no organization. There's no business. No one owns it. It is literally a gift we give to the Texas nationalist movement, to Texas independence, and for people across the world that want to use this endowment contract for securing their future, for preparing for grandkids, or whatever it may be. There's so many different ways. You can have unlimited stakes, and you can test this out currently on the testnet at PulseChain, and you can find out more information at texan.cc. But like I said, and here's the big announcement, donors to the TNM Catalyst campaign will receive a free no-value airdrop of Texan tokens to their crypto wallet, those that want it, and give us a wallet or give the TNM a wallet as a donation premium. This is the big announcement. Anyone who gives to the TNM that has given since the very beginning will receive a 10x on their tokens. We are going to be giving 100,000 tokens to $1 for all people who give in the next 18 days. And this includes everyone who has given previously. And so the reason we're doing this is we've allocated token within this contract. And because we're in a bear market, we've had fewer donors than we thought we would have. And so we decided to take the excess token and increase the distribution to those who donate. And so this is not public information. Please do not share this on social media. You can share it with a friend, or you can share it with somebody that's in the TNM, but we are not making this public on our website. We're not making this public on our YouTube channel. We're not making this public in Twitter. This is for you to know that you will receive 100,000 tokens per dollar donated to the TNM. And we hope that if this is of interest to you, that you will support Texas independence and be a part of this Catalyst campaign. And that's a big announcement that we have for this. Any comments on that, Brandon?
I mean, we're erring on the side of instead of, I guess, a scarcity mindset, we're going abundance mindset here. We want these to be in the hands of the folks. We want to give this as a value gift to the people who have donated and supported TNM, and that's very important to us. And we think that having it in those people's hands are going to give this thing the best chance of success.
And the other thing I want to share with you, because we have this excess token that we want the true believers in Texas independence to have, is that the more that you have, the more benefit it is to stake it and to receive interest. And that interest, I think the dream of a lot of people financially is that if I had these resources and I got, a certain amount, 5%, let's say, that would be something that I could then utilize for cash flow in my own life. And so we want the people who are the true believers, and it's a group probably, I think when it's all said and done of donors, it will probably be less than 3,000 people. And you are the people that got in early, and we want to reward that. And so thank you very much to all of you who have given to the TNM. We're really excited about the future of the Texan Token and what it can mean for people across Texas and helping them get out of debt slavery. So that's the big announcement. We do have a referral program. If you want to, you can go to the texan.cc, go to the About section and find the refer link, or go to texan.cc/refer. If you refer anyone who donates to the TNM over $500, you're going to get a bonus of 5%, and so are they. And so this is a really encouraging way in which, let's say you're somebody that's in leadership and knows people, you have the ability to benefit by sharing the message. And so that's something that you can get on the website and get your own referral code. And then this is the last thing I want to share with you. This is the Texan Token yield curve. And I mentioned to you that each year that you hold and stake your Texan tokens in the contract, this is the annual return. First year is 5%, and that's the base rate. But every year that you hold, each year, you would then, after year 2, have a total of 11%. 5% the first year, 6% the second year. As you can see, this really supports those that hold long term. Year 22 is 236% just from that year. All told, it is 1,881%. But this is in Texan tokens. So this is the example as a case study. If you put $1,000 in, right, or had $1,000 worth of Texan token value, which there is no value to, it is not on the market. What would happen is the yield from that $1,000 equivalent, the first year would be $50, right? But if you held that for 22 years, that $1,000 would be $18,810. And so this is the math. You will find this under our white paper, but this is how the incentive and why cryptocurrency that is programmed this way and enables you to stake. But here's the beautiful part. What makes this an endowment token is the ability for you to scrape your interest at any time. But if you did and you said, I'm gonna stake my principal for 22 years, but I get into a bind after year 5, you can scrape your earned interest with no penalty, and it does not affect your stake. But if you do emergency end stake, if you literally say, I want all my money back, well, if it's under 50% of the time served, you're going to lose half that money. If it's over that time, it's going to be pro rata by day. And so you have to be careful and cautious. And the key to this is that we want to reward people who honor their commitment in the contract. But this is something that is programmatically put in. And this is really the incentive by which we stabilize a cryptocurrency, by providing interest or yield to those who wait. And so this is essentially what we call a proof of stake mine. And once all of the Texan tokens are mined out in the next 50 to 100 years, staking ends and it's just price appreciation. Okay, so that is the presentation for today. We'd love for you to follow us on YouTube. We stream daily, at least Monday through Friday, sometimes Brandon twice a day. You can find me at Crypto Heartbeat on YouTube, or Brandon is at Rags to Riches Fam. Any comments that you have before we turn it over to questions, Brandon?
No, I'm just typing away, answering some really good questions in here. One of the things that we get this question a lot: what type of allocations do we have at launch? So 97% of the supply is going to be locked up in a contract that nobody has the keys to, nobody has access to, and the system uses that 97% to kind of pay out yield based on the efforts of somebody staking. It has nothing to do with a human. Nobody has control over that. That's just what it is. 1% will go to the TNM, 1% will go to donors, and 1% will go to the team. Of that, I guess 3% total, 2% of that 3% will actually be staked for 22 years, leaving actually 1% or less actually circulating. So just wanted to be clear about that.
All right, so let's get into questions, and why don't you go ahead and lead those questions, Brandon?
Okay, cool. How is our current Texan token assets building with the TNM going to be calculated? We talked about that. Good. Who gets the $1.50 transaction fee? So in our example earlier, go ahead.
Hey, one thing I want to say about that last question.
Yeah.
So when the Pulse chain launches, within that week period after it's launched, we will be then launching the Texan token, and that's when the airdrop will happen. However, there are many people who have asked this question: what happens if the Texan token doesn't launch anytime soon? There are some contingencies, and we are going to launch the Texan token. If we don't have something, because of the timeline of the TNM, we may be forced to launch on Ethereum. It is not our desire or our preference. And so keep an eye on our YouTube channels. We will be the first to tell you. You can see it on our Twitter as well. If Pulse Chain launches, you're going to know about it. And then we can't do an airdrop unless we've got the blockchain to airdrop on. So I just want to clarify that.
Good question. All right, answer. Who gets the $1.50 transaction fee? If you guys remember previously, we were talking about the differences between traditional banking and doing a transaction and cryptocurrency and doing a transaction. One of the parts came up where it said to do an ACH, you might need $15 or $20 or even $30 I've seen to do a transaction with traditional banking. With cryptocurrency, that $1.50 actually goes to the people who help process these transactions. Okay, so it's incentive for these validators or incentive for these computers / nodes that we talked about to help process transactions on the network and basically make the network live. Good question. Why trust Metamask when it's controlled by Google? So actually Metamask is not controlled by Google. Metamask is essentially a gateway to the blockchain. If one of these gateways gets shut down, anybody in the world can create a new gateway. So it's actually decentralized in that manner as well. Now, Google does own some of the servers that help process and access the blockchain. But again, if that went down, or if people decided not to use those servers, they could simply change a couple settings in MetaMask and they wouldn't have to interact with Google.
And I think it's also important to note, we're not saying you have to use MetaMask. There are other hardware wallets you can use, Ledger, there's Trust Wallet. There are other hardware wallets. Here's the thing. You do not have to use MetaMask. If you don't feel comfortable with the connection to big tech, there are other options for you, just as long as it's a non-custodial wallet. And so there's a lot of information on YouTube about non-custodial wallets and alternatives to MetaMask. So do not hear us saying you have to have MetaMask. What we're saying is MetaMask is what the majority of people are using, and there could be reasons in the future we wouldn't want to use MetaMask, but right now this is what we're using for illustration purposes.
Yeah, for onboarding TNM, we want to keep our message the same. So that's why we're speaking about MetaMask only, but that's a good point, Matt. How do I know I'm completely on board with Texan Token as a TNM member and have loyalty points already on my account? You can go through the process of donating to Texan Token, or to not Texan Token, to the TNM. And you go through that process, and inside that process, it's going to ask you for a crypto wallet. Now on that web page, it's going to give you a link to show you how to set up a crypto wallet. And it's going to show you how to copy and paste that crypto wallet in one of the boxes that is required when you are donating to the TNM. So this is your choice. You do not have to participate in this. Ultimately, you're only doing this because you're helping TNM and you're donating directly to TNM. This is just a side benefit that you do not have to take advantage of whatsoever. This is no value after all.
And one little piece of information there, Lee. So one thing to make very clear, the current loyalty points have not been put in your TNM
Correct.
account yet. Okay. So
Correct.
if you logged into your TNM account and looked at your loyalty points, you would only see previous loyalty points from your activities of events and the things that you've done to earn them already. The donation based loyalty points have not been attributed to your account yet. So don't be like surprised if you go in there and you're like, I gave money, where are my loyalty points for this? I assure you those are being tracked. And so you can get more information by reaching out to TNM. You can be on their Telegram and ask those questions. But right now, they are not reflected in your TNM account yet. But I assure you that if you donated and included your wallet address, or let's say you donated and you haven't given your wallet address, they will make sure that if you give them their wallet address, they'll tie it to your account. But it's a very, very good question.
Good question. Cheryl Miller, can minors open a MetaMask account? The answer is yes, they can. You can help. A lot of parents will actually open up for them. They'll send them crypto. They'll keep their seed phrases, things of that nature. So yeah, there is no law preventing a minor from doing that. Keith Erickson, is the TNM Catalyst campaign considered a campaign contribution? I would have to ask TNM about that.
No, it is not. So
Okay.
the TNM is a registered 501c4 civic organization, non-political purposes. It is a bipartisan nonprofit organization. And so your gift is non-tax deductible. It's not a charitable organization. It's a civic organization. And so it is not considered a campaign contribution. And the other beauty of a civic organization under the tax code of C4 is they do not have to disclose any of their donor information. So one of the things that the TNM is very secure about is keeping your data safe, not a campaign contribution as a political campaign contribution. This is educational and civic only.
Yep. Edwin Swanee says your slide says 10,000 per $1. Matt just said $100,000, 100,000 per $1. So this entire time we've been telling people that it is 10,000 to 1. Matt and I have made the decision, and you guys are privy to this, and most of the rest of the world is not. It is actually going to be 100,000 per every dollar that you do donate. So
Yep.
so that's why there's a difference.
Yeah, and when that slide was put together, we hadn't decided if we were going to announce the 100,000, but you will see that reflected. And that's a big shift, right? A 10x increase in the number of Texan tokens. But
huge.
I think it's really important, though, for anyone who, please do not post this on social media. You can tell people verbally, you can talk. We do not want, here's what we do not want. We do not want people giving to the TNM because of the Texan token. That's not the point of this. The point of this is to support and to rally the supporters who believe in Texas independence. We want to reward you in your loyalty of giving for the right reasons. The problem is if people find out that it's 100,000 to 1, and that's the only motivation for their giving, it doesn't really help anyone. It actually can potentially cause trouble with token long term, because they're not benevolent actors, if you know what I mean. So I want you to know you don't have to keep it private or secret. We're telling 100 people in this webinar, but it's something that we wanted you to know. And you've got 18 days left. So if you do want to make an additional gift to the TNM, you can. But that is official. There will be 100,000 to 1 airdropped, not 10,000 to 1. Awesome.
And Katie Garcia says, how do we link our wallet to our TNM ID? What I might do, Matt, so go to texan.cc/donate and simply follow the steps. It's going to tell you everything that you need to do in the order that you're going to do it, but you would create a wallet, and there's a link to show you how to do that on that page, and you're going to copy that and you're going to paste it in one of the boxes next to your donation. And here really quick, I want to make sure that I answer a couple more questions here in chat. One of the questions that we had here is Pulse Chain and ERC20. So if you know about Ethereum is referred to as an ERC20 coin. Okay, so Pulse Chain is going to take Ethereum, it's going to approve upon it in just about every single way, and it's going to launch as its own network. All right, and we're actually going to call it, instead of an ERC20, it's called a PRC20. So it is its own separate network apart from Ethereum the native token is actually going to be Pulse instead of Ethereum because it's a
Yep.
PRC20.
And
So,
the Ethereum is a blockchain,
Mhm.
right? And Texan Token is a token, an ERC20 contract. It's a contract type. We call it a PRC20 on the Pulse chain. It is an exact replica or copy with improvements of throughput. It's faster. But what's amazing about the Pulse chain is it copies over the full system state, which means any tokens that you have on Ethereum will be copied over into the Pulse chain. But the Pulse chain is a layer one. It's a layer one blockchain, and the tokens actually are in contracts that sit on that blockchain. And so this is a copy of Ethereum's, and ultimately it's an entirely new fork of Ethereum. And like Brandon said, the native token of Ethereum becomes Pulse on the Pulse chain, and all of your copies of everything else are included in your MetaMask wallet. You don't have to do anything. You'll receive all of your tokens if you're into crypto and you have other things that are actually on Ethereum.
Absolutely. I think, Matt, that pretty much wraps this up. Somebody says, can I use my digital wallet to donate to the TNM? As long as you own the keys to that wallet, you would be able to. We suggest MetaMask for simplicity's sake, but the answer is yes. Just make sure you own the keys.
And they only accept USDC from Ethereum's mainnet. Do not give it from Binance, and do not use a different cryptocurrency like Ethereum or something. It's USDC on the Ethereum mainnet only to the TNM wallet address that is listed on their site. I also encourage you, make sure you double check to make sure that you have the right address on the TNM site, on the Texan.cc site. You can find it also in our Twitter. I have it pinned as a message, so you're verifying that you're sending crypto to the correct spot. Daniel, thank you so much.
Here we know. Thank you guys. I mean, you hung out for a very long time. You went into some overtime.
Yep.
To answer a lot of questions and take some time to go through chat. And gents, let me go ahead and tell you, this was an extremely informative presentation. Crypto 101 does not do it justice for the title. You guys went into a lot of depth on the issue, and I think everyone here, I mean, by the number of questions that I'm still seeing in chat, people are taking the foundation they got, and they want to know more. So tell them real quick if they'd like to know a little bit more about the crypto side of things, where they can reach out to you.
Brandon?
Yeah, so first and foremost, everybody can visit texan.cc to get information. You can see our links there. You can check me out at ragstorichessquad.com, and that has all of my links. I've got YouTube channels. I think I have 400 or 500 videos. I hang out on the porch. I do porch talks, talk about geopolitical stuff, and just have a good time. But I also get very granular, and I talk about the technology in detail, and I try to explain it to people in such a way that they understand. So those would be some good places. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Crypto Heartbeat. Make sure that you realize it's spelled HART on Twitter. But I'm Crypto Heartbeat on YouTube, and I stream daily around high noon Central Texas time, Monday through Friday at least, and talk about similar things as it relates to crypto. But to me, freedom and sovereignty is the name of the game. So that's what you come to Crypto Heartbeat for, and some encouragement. But Daniel, thank you so much for this. Thank you for leading the charge for so long. We're so honored to be a part of supporting Texas independence and all the work that you've done over the years. So thank you so much.
Well, gentlemen, from on behalf of myself, the TNM, and of course everyone who participated, I'm seeing the chat rolling over there with people thanking you guys so much for doing this. Let me just extend our gratitude for taking the time to go through this subject, and hopefully everyone will bounce off of here with a much better understanding of these discussions that are happening in the policy realm and the economic realm, and and its nexus to the concept of Texas independence. So thank you again. Well, folks, that is a wrap for Crypto 101. Thanks to Matt and Brandon for hosting this tonight, for presenting this wonderful information, and thank you for participating. If you'd like to find more TNM events or more TNM information, head to our website at tnm.me. There you can find a list of events, and we will be having more and more of these webinars added to the schedule. So be sure that you check it out. If you'd like to donate to the Catalyst campaign, head over to tnm.me/catalyst. That's tnm.me/catalyst. And help us out, man. We got a big task ahead of us, and we want to win, don't we? We want to win. We don't want to lose.
Absolutely.
No one wants to lose, right?
Daniel,
we want to win.
I want to point out that about $700,000 from people all across the world have been donated to the Catalyst campaign up until this point. So I think that's tremendous, and I think that speaks to your message and how well it carries.
Well, look, that's a great report because I wasn't aware of the totals.
Well, and it's actually that's just in crypto, Daniel.
Yeah.
That's only from the crypto
Wow.
community. It's actually about 850 with cash. So
Wow.
incredible. So we're getting close to $1 million. And that's from what Nate has said, this is one of the most successful campaigns in the shortest amount of time.
Wow. Well, that's fantastic. Great news. Thanks for delivering the great report to wrap this thing up. So, well, look, we'll leave it at that. Thank you all for joining us. Stay tuned. Stay tuned into our events, and be sure to look out for the next webinars, or go check out the nearest meetup near you. Until then, folks, have a great evening.